Picture the scenario. It's late. The lobby is finally quiet. The last guest has checked in. The night audit is running. And you finally sit down, maybe in the back office, maybe just behind the front desk, to check your email. And there it is, a notification from TripAdvisor or Booking.com. Someone has left a review.
The dreaded ping.
The dreaded ping, exactly. And it isn't just a star rating. It's a paragraph, a long one. You click it and, your heart rate spikes a little.
Wow.
And you see it, 1 star, maybe 2. The text starts with terrible experience. And now you're just staring at that little white text box that says management response. And there's a blinking cursor, just blinking, mocking you.
That blinking cursor is probably the most stressful pixel on a hotelier screen. I mean, it represents a massive amount of pressure because in that moment, you have to write something.
Right.
But everything you type just feels risky.
It does. You type something out, you read it back, and you think, do I sound defensive or do I sound robotic? Maybe even do I sound desperate?
And that stress is completely justified because in that moment, you aren't just writing an email to one unhappy person. You're performing. You're on a stage. You are writing for an audience of, thousands of potential future guests who are deciding whether or not to trust you with their vacation money.
That is exactly what we're unpacking today on the deep dive. We're moving way, way past the sort of generic, just be nice advice.
Right.
We are getting into the actual science and the strategy of reputation management. We've got a massive stack of sources today. We're talking detailed templates from Renova, some really heavy-hitting financial data from the Cornell Hospitality Report.
Oh, yeah, that Cornell report is a game changer.
And even psychological frameworks from academic theses on something called rapport management, plus, practical SOPs for the front desk.
This is really a masterclass in crisis communication and revenue management all wrapped into one. Because the stakes just couldn't be higher.
How high are we talking?
Well, we're looking at data from Travel Boom indicating that over 90% of travelers read reviews before they book.
90%. So basically everyone.
It's effectively everyone. Reviews are the new word of mouth. There's no escaping it.
So the mission for this deep dive is to give you a toolkit. We want to build a strategic workflow so you can recover trust and actually drive revenue from this. And we're specifically tailoring this for the smaller hotels, for the B&Bs.
For the owner-operators.
Exactly. The ones who don't have a crisis management PR firm on retainer.
Right. If you're a massive chain, you have a legal department for this stuff. If you're a B&B owner, it's just you and that cursor.
We're going to look at why responding to a negative review is actually more financially valuable than responding to a positive one. We're going to break down the 4R formula.
The LEARN model.
And we're going to navigate the absolute minefield of platform-specific rules.
And there's a lot of nuance there. I mean, what gets you banned on TripAdvisor might be totally fine, maybe even encouraged on Google. We really need to unpack all of that.
Okay, let's start with the why. Section 1. The business case. I think most people assume I should respond to reviews because it's polite, or maybe because my boss told me to. But that Cornell Hospitality Report you mentioned, it suggests it's way, way deeper than that.
It is. It's a revenue lever. It's not a chore. The Cornell study, which was led by Chris Anderson, it found a direct link between management responses and the bottom line.
A direct link?
A direct link. First, just encouraging reviews, actively asking for them. That alone increases your ratings and rankings compared to your competitive set. But more importantly, when management actually responds, they see improved sales.
How did they measure that?
The specific metric they looked at was click-throughs, from, say, TripAdvisor to an OTA like Expedia or Booking.com. People are significantly more likely to click Book Now if they see the owner is active and engaged in the comments.
That makes so much sense. It shows there's a human at the wheel. That it's not an abandoned ship.
Exactly.
But there was a finding in that report that completely threw me for a loop. It's this idea of diminishing returns.
This is fascinating data. And it usually makes hotel owners really nervous. You would think the more I respond, the better.
Worse.
If I respond to 100% of reviews, I'm doing a perfect job.
Right. That sounds like the A+ student approach. 100% is always the goal.
But the data shows that revenue increases as your response rates go up, but only to a point. Once you start responding to over 40% of your reviews.
40!
And definitely once you get past 85%, the revenue actually starts to drop.
Wait, hold on. Let's pause right there. So responding to everyone is bad for business. How is that even possible? Are guests annoyed by it?
The theory is called crowding out.
Crowding out.
Imagine you're a potential guest, you're scrolling through reviews on your phone. You want to see what other real humans experience, their authentic voice. But if every single user comment is immediately followed by this massive block of corporate management text, the page just feels cluttered. It feels like the management is dominating the conversation rather than, letting the guests speak.
It creates this corporate noise. It's like you can't hear the real people anymore.
That's the perfect phrase for it. Corporate noise. It drowns out the authentic word of mouth. It feels like a host at a party who won't let anyone finish a sentence without jumping in to either correct them or thank them. It starts to look desperate or maybe controlling.
That is so counterintuitive. I feel like we're always told engage, 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 respond to everything. But the nuance here seems to be about which reviews you spend your energy on.
Precisely. The Cornell study dug into that too. It found that responding to negative reviews that boosts your scores and your revenue significantly. You effectively stop the bleeding.
You cauterize the wound.
Perfect. Whereas responding to simple, generic, positive reviews, it has a much lower impact. And if you respond to all the positive ones, every single great stay gets a full paragraph in response. It can actually diminish your average score over time because of that crowding effect we just talked about.
So the takeaway is prioritize the negative. That's where the fire is.
Yes. Treat the negatives as urgent, as triage. And treat the positives as strategic opportunities. You don't need to reply to every single nice bed comment.
Okay, that leads us nicely into this concept of rapport management. We have this thesis by a researcher named Liu Ta that analyzes hotel responses in Malaysia. And it introduces this idea that a response isn't just a reply, it's a, quote, public performance of sociality rights.
Sociality rights sounds like heavy academic jargon, I know.
A little bit.
But it's actually a very human concept. It basically means we all have a fundamental expectation of how we should be treated in any social interaction. We expect equity, to be treated fairly, and we expect association, to feel a connection, to feel included.
So when a guest leaves a scathing review, they are just saying the food was bad.
No, not at all. They're saying, you violated my sociality rights, you didn't treat me fairly, or you made me feel excluded and ignored.
So the management response then is the attempt to restore that right, to fix the violation.
Yes, but here's the key shift in mindset. You aren't just restoring it for the person who complained. They might already be gone. They might have vowed to never return no matter what you write.
Right, they're a lost cause.
Maybe. The real performance is for the future guest. The person who was reading that review 6 months later, trying to decide where to book.
The audience.
The audience. They're watching how you handle conflict. Are you defensive? Do you try to gaslight the guest? Or do you validate their feelings, even if you don't agree with the facts? That performance is rapport management.
So you're signaling to them, hey, if something goes wrong during your stay, this is how I'll treat you.
With respect and fairness.
Exactly. It changes the pressure a bit, right? Yeah. It's not about winning an argument with one angry person. It's about showing your character to the thousands of quiet observers.
That's a huge point. If you get into a mudslinging match in the comments...
The audience doesn't care who started it. They just see that you're covered in mud. And nobody wants to stay at a muddy hotel.
Okay, so we know we need to respond, especially to the bad ones. And we know we're performing for a future audience. Let's get into the how. Section 2, the anatomy of a perfect reply. We have a couple of frameworks here that are honestly lifesavers when your brain freezes up in front of that blinking cursor.
They really are.
Let's start with the 4R formula. This one comes from the Travel Boom source.
The 4R formula is great because it's a simple mnemonic. You can literally keep it on a sticky note right on the front desk monitor. The 4 R's are recognize, reinforce, redirect, and request.
Okay, break those down for us. Let's use a real-world example. Say, a guest complains that their room facing the street was too noisy and they couldn't sleep. Okay, a noisy room. Classic complaint. So, step 1, recognize. You have to acknowledge their experience. You absolutely cannot ignore the complaint or pretend it didn't happen.
What's a bad response there?
A bad response is just, thanks for the feedback. It looks completely indifferent. You have to say something like, I hear you that the street noise impacted your sleep quality. You validate the reality of their experience.
Right. No gaslighting, no saying, well, it's a city, what did you expect?
Exactly.
Don't do that.
Step 2 is reinforce. This is the clever marketing part. You want to mention a unique positive feature if you can to sort of sandwich the bad news.
So how would that work?
Well, if the guest said, the room was noisy but the bed was really comfortable, you reply, We're so glad you found our premium mattresses so comfortable, but we are genuinely disheartened to hear about the noise.
I like that. It reminds the reader, the future guest, that there was good stuff. It balances the narrative.
Exactly. Keeps the brand value present. Step 3 is redirect. This is where you share a fix or an update. You have to show action. We are currently in the process of installing double-glazed windows on all our street-facing rooms to solve this.
Or something you can offer right now.
All right. For future stays, please know we have quiet courtyard rooms available. You are redirecting their attention from the problem to the solution.
It shows you aren't just sorry, you're competent. You're actually fixing things.
And finally, step 4, request. You encourage them to contact you directly or, even better, to return. Please contact us directly if you decide to stay again so we can personally assign you one of our quietest courtyard rooms. It closes the loop, and it shows you aren't afraid of them coming back. You want them back.
That seems really solid for a standard kind of operational complaint. But what about when things are really heated? When the guest is truly emotional, maybe they feel insulted or ignored? We have another model here called the learn model. This one feels a bit more psychological.
The learn model is widely cited in hospitality training. I mean, big brands like Fairfield Inn use versions of this. It was originally designed for resolving complaints face-to-face, but it works perfectly for writing online responses.
Okay, so what does learn stand for?
L is for listen. Now, in a written context, this means reading between the lines. What is the guest actually upset about? It's not always what they lead with.
Can you give an example of reading between the lines?
Sure. Let's say a guest writes a review complaining about the $10 resort fee. On the surface, it's a price complaint.
Right, they think it's too expensive.
But if you read closely, they might say something like, I wasn't told about this until checkout, and it felt like a surprise charge. So the real issue isn't the $10. It's the lack of transparency. They feel tricked. They feel disrespected.
Ah.
So when you listen, you realize you need to address the communication failure, not just defend the cost of the fee.
That is a crucial distinction. Okay, so L is listen. What's E?
E is for empathize. This ties right back to that rapport management idea. You have to validate their feelings. You have to show you understand their emotional state.
Yeah.
A is for apologize. And there's a really crucial legal distinction here that a lot of small business owners need to know. You can offer a sincere apology without admitting legal negligence.
How do you thread that needle? Because I feel like owners are terrified of getting sued if they say the word sorry.
You focus on the emotion and the experience, not the liability. So you say, I am so sorry you felt frustrated and disappointed by that surprise at checkout. That validates their emotion.
Right.
You don't say, I admit we were negligent and failed to disclose our fees. That validates liability. It's a subtle but critical difference.
That's a lawyer-approved distinction, I'm sure. But it still sounds human.
It does. Then R is for react. That's where you offer the solution or the fix. And then N, and this is what always gets skipped, N is for notify.
Notify who?
Notify your internal team. This is the internal step. Did you actually tell the maintenance guy to fix the broken light bulb from that review? Did you tell the front desk team to be more proactive about explaining the resort fee? If you don't notify internally, you're just going to get the same review next week from a different guest.
You're just putting out fires instead of fixing the leaky gas pipe.
Perfectly said. You have to close the operational loop.
I want to touch on the language aspect of this. That Lai-Wentao thesis we mentioned, it analyzed the specific words used by 5-star versus 3-star hotels. And there's a really distinct difference in their vocabulary when they apologize.
This is fascinating linguistic analysis. The best, most effective responses use what the researchers call affect unhappiness markers.
Affect unhappiness.
They're words that carry genuine emotional weight. Words like disheartened, saddened, regretful, even anguished in extreme cases.
We are disheartened to learn sounds so much more human and sincere than we apologize for the inconvenience.
Exactly. Inconvenience is a robot word. It's corporate speak. It minimizes the guest's pain. It's dismissive. Saddened is a human emotion. When a manager writes, I was personally saddened to read about your experience, it builds an emotional bridge.
It shows you care.
It shows you care. Generic apologies often sound like a form letter, which actually increases the distance between you and the guest. It creates a wall. Emotional words break that wall down.
It's like the difference between a form letter from a bank and a handwritten note from a friend.
Precisely. That's a perfect analogy.
Okay, let's apply all this to the really scary stuff. Section 3, handling the negative. We're calling this the rapid recovery. Now, the first rule that's mentioned in almost every single source is timeliness.
The 24-hour rule is the gold standard. A complaint that's just left to fester for a week looks like complete indifference. The faster you reply, the more you look like you are on top of your operation. It shows you're listening.
And the Renova source outlines a specific rapid recovery template. The primary goal here is de-escalation. So what are the key elements?
The most critical tactical move in the rapid recovery template, the one thing you absolutely must do, is take the conversation offline immediately.
Immediately.
You acknowledge the issue publicly, you apologize, and then you provide a specific contact method. And ideally, it's a name and an email. Please contact me, Jane Doe, the general manager, at this specific email address.
Why is the specific name so important? Why not just info@hotel.com?
Because management is a faceless entity. It's a building. It's a concept. Jane Doe is a person. And it is psychologically much, much harder to scream at Jane than it is to scream at the management.
It humanizes the hotel instantly.
It does. And moving it offline protects you. You do not want a back-and-forth argument in the public comment section.
Oh, that's a spectator sport you will always lose.
Always. You'll just look petty. Even if you're 100% right, you look defensive. Get them into your private inbox where you can actually solve the problem away from the audience.
Okay, one of the big don'ts listed in the rapid recovery template is offering compensation publicly. Why is that? I would think saying, "We'd love to give you a free night," would look really generous to the future guests reading it.
It looks generous to that one guest, but it looks like blood in the water to scammers. If you publicly post, "Sorry about the wifey, here's a full refund," you are effectively putting up a giant flashing billboard that says, "Complain about our wifey to get a free stay."
You're incentivizing bad reviews?
Exactly. It encourages extortion. You will suddenly get 5 more reviews complaining about that exact same thing. Compensation should always, always be discussed privately in that offline email chain. Never promise money or freebies in the public text.
That makes total sense. Now, obviously, not all complaints are created equal. A missing coaster is not the same as bed bugs. The Linguistic paper introduces something called a service recovery model matrix. I love a good matrix.
Brilliant.
It divides problems by severity and by responsibility.
It's such a useful tool for deciding how much energy to invest so you don't burn out. Because you can't bleed for every single review. So imagine a grid, bottom left quadrant, low severity, low responsibility.
Give me an example of that.
It rained during their entire stay.
Yeah.
They're grumpy about it. You can't fix the weather, so it's low responsibility on your part. And honestly, it's not a tragedy, so it's low severity.
So what's the strategy for that?
Empathy. That's it. You just say, "We are so sorry the weather didn't cooperate for your trip. We know how disappointing that is." You validate, you show you understand, but you don't compensate. You don't offer a free night because it rained.
Okay, that saves time and money. What about the nightmare scenario? High severity, high responsibility. A pipe burst in the room and destroyed their luggage.
Top right quadrant. The strategy there is red carpet. You drop everything. You apologize profusely using those effect on happiness words we talked about. You involve senior management immediately. You cover all the costs. You do whatever it takes. That is a full-blown crisis.
And then the middle ground. What about high severity, low responsibility?
This is my favorite quadrant. This is the hero quadrant.
The hero quadrant.
Yes. Here's an example. A guest forgot to make a dinner reservation at a super popular restaurant for their anniversary, and now they're panicked. They are crying in the lobby. It's not your fault at all, so low responsibility, but it's a huge deal to them. High severity, their special night is ruined.
So you step in.
Yes. The strategy is be the hero. You use your local connections, you call the restaurant, you pull a string, you get them that table. If you solve a major problem that you didn't create, you create a customer for life. They will write the best, most glowing review you have ever had.
That is such a useful way to categorize things. You don't have to be a hero for the rain, but you absolutely should be for the anniversary.
Exactly. You match the response to the matrix. It saves you from overreacting or underreacting.
There is one more strategic nugget regarding negative reviews from that Lai Wen-Ta research. It compared how 5-star hotels handle blame versus how 3-star hotels handle it.
And this was a stark contrast. The data showed that 3-star hotels frequently use a strategy that the researchers called rejection of responsibility.
What does that sound like?
It sounds like that isn't our fault, or you didn't read the room description, or we don't control the taxi drivers on the street. They get defensive. They try to protect their ego.
And the 5-star hotels.
They almost never denied the problem. Even if it wasn't strictly their fault, they use what's called assurance of service improvement. So they would say, We will review our communication regarding local taxi services to ensure this kind of misunderstanding doesn't happen again.
So they take ownership of the guest experience even if they didn't cause the incident.
That is a powerful mindset shift. Own the experience, not just the fault. It signals confidence. Denying the problem signals insecurity. The five-star hotel is confident enough to say, we can do better even if the guest was partly wrong. It makes them look bulletproof to future customers.
Okay, let's pivot. Let's go to the happier side of things. Section 4, handling the positive. The Cornell study said, don't overdo it, don't crowd out the guests. But when you do respond to a positive review, how do you maximize it for your own benefit? Renova suggests the gracious gratitude template.
The key here is to avoid the copy-paste trap. Never, ever, ever write, Dear Guest. If their screen name is Traveler123, you write, Dear Traveler123. And you absolutely must echo.
Echo. What do you mean by that?
You repeat a specific highlight they mentioned. If they wrote, the barista made amazing latte art every morning, you reply with, we are so glad you love the latte art. We will pass that wonderful compliment on to our barista, Sarah.
That proves a human actually read it. It isn't just a bot scanning for 5 stars and spitting out a generic thanks.
Right. And it reinforces that positive memory for them and for anyone else reading. And then once you've established that human connection, you can get a little strategic.
How so?
Well, Renova outlines the upsell and incentive template. This is where you can gently turn a review into future revenue. If they love the room, you might say, next time you visit, you should try our spa package for an even more relaxing weekend. It's a soft, relevant promotional push.
You have to be careful with that, right? I imagine that depends on the platform.
Oh, very careful. If you're too salesy, you just look like a spammer, and it undermines the sincerity. It has to be relevant to what they liked. Don't upsell the steakhouse if they spent the whole review praising your new vegan menu.
Right. There's also the social shout-out. I love this one for free marketing.
This is the best leverage you have. If a guest says, the view from our balcony was amazing, you reply, we'd love to see your photos. Please tag us on Instagram if you post them. You are encouraging user-generated content, or UGC.
And why is that so valuable?
That content, real photos from real guests, is absolute gold for your marketing. It's worth 10 times more than your own professional photos because it's authentic. It's social proof.
And finally, there's a template for the loyalty builder.
This is a crucial one. We are so glad you enjoyed your stay. Next time, consider joining our loyalty program for direct booking benefits. You are actively trying to move them from a high-commission OTA, where you're paying 15 or 20%, to Booking.com, to a direct booking relationship where you keep all the margin.
Okay, that is the perfect segue into Section 5, platform-specific rules and landmines, because trying to move someone off a platform can sometimes get you in big trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Let's walk through the big 3, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, and Google. They all have different rules of engagement. First up, TripAdvisor.
TripAdvisor is the grandfather of review sites. They are very strict. They have a very clear no commercial content rule. You generally cannot drop direct links to your booking engine or put blatant ads in your response. If you write, click here for 10% off your next stay, they will likely flag it and remove it.
And they have a restriction on the back and forth conversation too, right?
Yes. The management response feature allows one single reply per review. You can't have a threaded conversation. You get one shot to set the record straight, so you have to make it count. And something to remember is that approval can take up to 48 hours, so don't panic if your reply doesn't show up immediately.
Got it. No links, one shot. Be patient. What about Booking.com?
Booking.com is obsessed with 2 things: privacy and what they call fee avoidance.
Fee avoidance.
They don't want you poaching their customers, so
Sure.
strictly no personal info. You can't post the guest's phone number or email in the public text, even if you're trying to be helpful. And crucially, you cannot mention competitors or, in many cases, your own website URL if it's seen as an attempt to bypass their commission fees. They want to keep the entire transaction inside their ecosystem.
They don't want you stealing their customer for a direct booking next time.
Exactly. Also, weird little quirk: the language rule. Your response usually must be in the same language as the review, or in English. If you reply in French to a German review, it might not even be displayed to the user.
That's a great tip. And finally, the big beast, Google.
Google is totally unique
Yep.
because the reviews are part of the maps and search ecosystem. This means SEO, search engine optimization, plays a huge role here. This is really the only major platform where your reply actually helps people find you in the first place.
How does that work?
Keywords. It's all about keywords. If guest just says, "Great stay," and you reply, "We're so glad you enjoyed the heated pool and our central location close to the convention center," you are reinforcing those keywords for Google's algorithm.
So it helps you show up when someone searches hotel with heated pool near convention center.
That is a ninja tactic. That's exactly it. Use the reply to tell Google what you offer, but don't make it sound like keyword stuffing. It has to flow naturally. We are glad you enjoy the heated pool. Not, "We are glad you enjoy the heated pool. Best hotel pool, swimming warm water."
Right, right. Keep it human. Now, we have to talk about the dark side of these platforms. Fake reviews. The Customer Alliance source differentiates between open and closed portals. This is really important for knowing when to panic and when to relax.
This distinction is absolutely key for your sanity. Closed portals are the OTA's Booking.com, Expedia. You can generally only leave a review if you have actually booked and stayed. The system verifies it. So fake reviews are very, very rare there.
And open portals.
Those are sites like TripAdvisor, Google, Yelp. Anyone with an account can post a review. You don't need any proof of stay. This is where you get the vindictive ex-employee or the competitor down the street leaving a fake one-star review to hurt your business.
So what do you do when that happens? When you see a review from John Smith saying bed bugs, and you check your system and know for a fact that John Smith has never stayed with you.
First step, you report it immediately. Every platform has a flag or report tool, but, and this is a big but, the platforms are notoriously slow to remove them. They tend to err on the side of the user of free speech.
So it could stay up for weeks.
Or forever. So while it's up there, you need a reply. You cannot leave a bedbugs review unanswered for even a day.
So what's the strategy? Do you call them a liar in public?
No. Never fight fire with fire. The strategy is to be professional but very firm about the lack of record. You say something like, "We take all feedback, especially of this nature, extremely seriously. However, we have no record of a guest under this name staying with us during this period. We pride ourselves on transparency. Please contact us directly with your reservation details so we can verify this stay."
That is smart. You aren't saying you are a liar. You're just saying we have no record.
Exactly. It signals to the intelligent reader, this is probably fake, without you looking aggressive or defensive. It casts just enough doubt to neutralize the review.
Let's move to section 6, implementation and workflow. Because we have all these amazing templates, the 4R, the Learn model, the matrix, but how do we make sure this stuff actually happens on a busy Tuesday? Because when you're running a B&B, you're also making breakfast and checking people in and fixing a toilet.
Right.
The hotel front desk SOP pack we looked at suggests integrating this into the daily checklist.
Reputation management cannot be something you do when you have time, because you never have time. It needs to be operationalized. It has to be a standard operating procedure. It should be on the front desk checklist right next to count the cash drawer and print the arrivals list.
What would that checklist look like?
Super simple. Step 1, monitor. Check the review sites or your aggregation tool. Step 2, respond publicly. Use the templates we've talked about. Step 3, take offline. If it's negative, get them into a private channel. Step 4, log the issue. And Step 5, notify.
Let's talk about step 5, notify. This is the N in the Learn model. Why is this so often missed?
Because the goal for most managers is just to get the review answered and off the screen. They hit send and they think, done. The public fire's out. But if you don't log the issue, if you don't create a maintenance ticket to fix the faulty air conditioner in room 202, the next guest is just going to complain about the same broken AC. You have to close the operational loop to actually improve.
You mentioned aggregation tools. For a busy owner, logging into 5 or 6 different sites every day is a huge pain.
It's a massive barrier to entry. If you have to log into Expedia, then Booking, then Google, then TripAdvisor, you just won't do it consistently. Tools like Revenate, Trust You, or Review Pro are lifesavers. They pull everything into one single review stream.
So you see it all in one place.
All in one place. You can see and reply from one single dashboard. If you have the budget for one of them, they pay for themselves in time saved and reviews not missed.
And what about escalation? Who on the team should respond to what?
That's a great question. You do not want the night porter responding to a complex legal threat or a red carpet crisis.
Probably not.
The rule of thumb is this. The front desk team or maybe a marketing coordinator can handle gracious gratitude, the standard positive reviews. They can use the templates for that. However, anything that falls under rapid recovery, so any negative, mixed, or high-severity issues, must be handled by a manager or the owner.
Why that division?
Because the tone needs to be authoritative, and that person needs to be empowered to actually offer solutions or compensation. You don't want your front desk agent promising a full refund they can't actually deliver.
That's a very clear division of labor.
And consistency is absolutely key. You don't want a cheerful, emoji-filled response to a serious complaint about a safety hazard. That kind of tonal disconnect just destroys trust instantly.
So having those SOPs printed out, literally taping the 4R model to the wall behind the desk, effectively safeguards your brand voice.
It takes the emotion out of it for the staff. When you're tired and you feel personally attacked by a review, you don't write what you feel in that moment. You follow the protocol. You write what the template says. It saves you from yourself.
We have covered a massive amount of ground today. I mean, from the financial impact of just responding at all to the specific psychology of words like disheartened, all the way to SEO hacks on Google.
It really is a comprehensive discipline. It's not just typing. It's marketing. It's conflict resolution. It's operations management. And it's revenue management, all rolled into one little text box.
So to summarize the key takeaway for our listeners, specifically those smaller owners, that blinking cursor is not your enemy. It is a revenue lever. Responding to negative reviews with the rapid recovery method saves customers you might have lost.
Absolutely.
Responding to positive reviews strategically without crowding them out builds loyalty and gets you direct bookings. And doing all of it within 24 hours puts you ahead of 90% of your competition.
That's the formula right there. Prioritize the negative, personalize the positive, and always, always remember that your primary audience is the future guest who is silently watching.
Before we sign off, I want to leave everyone with one final concept that came up in the rep rapport management thesis. It's a term called digital emotion contagion.
This is a powerful thought to end on. We tend to think of emotions as biological, I smile, you smile back. But the research shows that emotions are contagious through text, too. When you write a response, you aren't just conveying information, you are transferring a mood.
That's a little scary.
It is. If you're angry or defensive when you type, even if you try to hide it with professional words, that defensiveness often bleeds through the screen. It infects the reader with negativity and doubt.
But the opposite is also true.
The opposite is true. If you write with genuine confidence, care, and warmth, you infect the potential guest with that feeling. You make them feel safe. You make them feel like you've got their back.
So the final question you should ask yourself before you hit send on that blinking cursor is, what mood am I infecting my future guests with?
Are you infecting them with defensiveness, or are you infecting them with confidence?
That is the question. Start using those templates today, get that Learn model up on the wall, and turn those reviews into reservations. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.